wouldn't go to any of the houses there, right? Wait, right now. We've lived at this village before. This is the village we were in when we changed the
Has not found the isle.
FX files. The .fx files. That's where we're testing that out. The particle files and the FX files. And the reason we did it was because there's a woman that shows up here. She ain't here right now. She's only here at certain times of the day. But she shows up over here. Just a random background character. She sits in this chair here, and she plucks the feathers out of these. Is it chickens? Are you plucking feathers out of chickens? Yeah, it does look like chickens.
She's not safe.
She's plucking feathers out of poultry, anyways. And when you stand over here by the merchant, the feathers that she is plucking, they get caught in the wind and they end up flying by over here. And in the vanilla game, those feathers kind of glitch out. They have this thing where when they're like, you can see them and then you can't see them, and then you can see them and then you can't see them. It's like they're flickering. It's like they're blinking on and off. And it kept annoying me. It's a thing it's one of those little teeny weeny tiny details that most people are not going to notice, but there she is. She just showed up. When I noticed it, once I noticed it, this what I said, she sits here and plucks chickens.
I'd even call it a secret.
Once, it's such a tiny minute detail that it's nothing. But once I noticed it, I couldn't not notice it. And every time we went by, I kept seeing it. I was like, that bothers the hell out of me. Now that I've seen it, I can't unsee it. So we finally went and fixed it. It wasn't... We accidentally killed her. It wasn't just that. It was also when you walk on the ground and you notice if you're in a dusty area, dust goes up around his feet. Or if you're in the forest, leaves go up around his feet. Those would flicker sometimes as well. What we got around our feet right now? Get a lesson away from us. Because it's raining, it's got like water splashes around his feet right now. It's caused by the loads, D-L-O-D, and level of detail. Not everything in the game has LOD, loads, level of detail. Not everything has it. So some things will show up if you're close to them, and then other things you can see really far away. You can see trees and stuff on the mountains in the distance, but you can't see the flowers until you're up right near the tree, and now you can see the flowers in the tree. That's because the trees have a layered level of detail. There's 3 layers. So 0, 100, 1000. Whereas the flowers only have 2, 0, 100. So you can see the trees from 1,000 feet away, and they become more detailed at 100 feet away, and they become their most detailed at 0 feet away. Whereas the flowers you can't see at all until 100 feet away, and they become their most detailed at 0 feet away. That was the problem. Those feathers, when she's plucking those feathers, they didn't have a load. They didn't have a level of detail. So the wind would blow them closer to you, and you could see them, and then they would blow away from you. And the effect was, it looked like it was a light, like a broken Christmas light, where you have a string of lights, and one is going blinking on and off and on and off and on and off, and it's not supposed to be. It was looking like that. So I added loads to them. Level of detail, I added those to them, and now they don't do it anymore.
At last.
And then I found out the particles, like blood spatter, when blood spatters, a lot of those didn't have loads. So I changed all of that. And this was the village we was in when I was doing it, so we were testing all that stuff in this village. And it was because of that woman over there. It's one of these tales that they didn't bother to put loads in that because it's such a small thing. I mean, they're tiny little specks that are in the background, and you're hardly ever going to notice them. And it's. I just happened to notice it one day. I was like, why is that flickering like that? Almost every town has a woman sitting there plucking feathers. And once I saw it, every town I went in, I was like, there it is again. And there it is again. And I couldn't not see it anymore. Can't loot these boxes under here. That barrel is hovering funny. Yeah, a guy playing a flute on a boat. You know, that should be Avallac'h. Because that's what he did all the time. Siri complained about it a lot because there were many scenes where Siri wanted to talk to Avallac'h, and yeah, he's playing a flute, and she was trying to get him to listen to her, and he's playing a flute, and she was getting mad because you're not listening to me. He was listening to her, he was just playing a flute. She was constantly mad at him because he wouldn't stop playing the flute. Why doesn't he play a flute in the game? Again, there was another thing that was a pretty big part of his character, and removing it from the game does change his personality. He was always sitting on a boat in the lake playing the flute. Or riding his horse around the lake.
Damn it.
We just looted your supply of monster parts. A Zoogalai. You guys have Zoogal problems in this lake. That's a mod, obviously. The Zoogal stuff isn't in the game normally. Which mod is that? It's one of the alchemy mods. I've got several Witcher 1 alchemy mods on here. There's a lot of Witcher 1 alchemy mods that bring Witcher 1 alchemy, various versions of Witcher 1 alchemy into the game. They're not compatible with each other, so if you try to use this mod with that mod, they won't work. The only way you're going to get them to all to work, like I'm doing, you're going to have to open up each one of them and manually rewrite a lot of the code. Take a piece of code from this one and a piece of code from that one, and then write some extra code to compensate for the fact that there's a piece here and there's a piece there from different ones. So. Requires a lot of rewriting if you want to get mods that edit the same thing working at the same time. You can do it, it's just time consuming. It's not really that hard. That is something where you are going to need to know some sort of C++, because it's C++ code. If you can read C++ code, it's really easy to do it. If you can't read C++ code, it's not that difficult to learn, but you'll be confused until you do learn it. villain-type monsters traveling with us, don't we? We're
Ciri,
kind of a crew well-suited for Avallac'h.
can you hear me?
We've got Ciri in her dryad form, and we've got 2 Leshens, and we've got a spider, or not quite a spider. A tick with a spider's head is what it looks like. There it goes, everybody. There they come. It's funny when we climb over our fence and they can't get to us, so they have to they walk quite a distance to reach us. There goes the other one. Leshen strolling by through the forest, through the village into the forest. Vargas is kind of the only one out of place for a villain, ain't he? Can't remember if we went in this house or not. Go in it again if we did. We didn't because there's loot here. And that is an Easter egg. That's an Easter egg there. Why isn't Vashka here? This is the town Vashka lives in. I just feel like Vashka ain't here, is she? The other characters are here. That the guy with the very bad stutter, he's here. Vashka should be here too. She lived in the same village she did. Yeah, the guy with the stutter here. Yes. Can we talk to you? No, we can't talk to you, right? Yeah, he's an Easter egg. He's an Easter egg that I think a lot of people are gonna miss him. Just because he's just standing here at random in the bricklayer's village, and unless you stop and listen, because there's no interacting with him, there's no quests, there's nothing. He's just, yeah, the bricklayer that has a bad stutter. So if you don't happen to realize, hey, this is the bricklayer's village. Hey, here's the guy with the stutter. You don't realize he's an Easter egg here. You would have to be listening to background characters and notice. There he is. But, Vashka should be here. Him and Vashka both live in the same village, and she's not here. Is she? You know, we haven't actually gone and directly looked at every single person here. I never noticed her here.
Do you see him here? I left him a letter. Will rejoin him in London.
This group of women here. You guys come back.
I just hoped you see that. Why do they go there? Leave for Rihanna. And not let him go. Stupid. Probably dead already.
Can we talk to you?
Let's stay clear of the swamps.
It is you. Oh, what's her name? She's changed villages again. She's here now. This is the first playthrough we ever saw this. I never saw this in any other playthrough. What's her name? Is it Martha? Is she Martha? I can find out her name because we already did our quest. After we did the quest, after you've done that quest, there is no reason to go back to that village. It never tells you to go back. But because we're doing this wandering around exploring thing that we're doing, we ended up going back to the village after we did the quest. And when we go by her house, there's a guy standing out front of her house. And he's talking with this woman. And if you stop and listen to what they're saying, they said after her sister died and her brother-in-law died, she fled the village. People started saying bad stuff about her. They said she caused their death. And so she fled the village to start a new life. And we've been finding her in other villages. She's trying to find a new place to live. Wild at Heart? Yes, is it Wild at Heart? What's her name? Hannah's the girl that died. Nealon is the guy that died. Margaret, that's her name.
Avallac'h speaks the truth.
But we just found her again. She's in this village now.
Because I aim to.
She's wandering around in Velen, and you can find her at different villages now. She's trying to find a new place to live. We got this whole dialogue that told us that. And I'd never seen it before. This was the first playthrough I'd ever seen it. She has a unique texture file. There's no other... Like the background characters, you see a lot of the same background characters over and over in different villages. And it's different people, but they just look the same because they have the same texture file. She's a character with a unique texture file. So when you find her in other villages, it's always her. But I was looking to see, could we find anybody who is possibly Veshka?
Avallac'h claims they've neither a knowledge nor talent. He spent 4 centuries learning to talk. And still only find evidence of pre-existing creatures.
You dropped your box somewhere and didn't notice. Yeah, there's nobody here that looks like they could be Veshka. There's no house that looks like it could be Vashka's either. She's supposed to live in the bricklayer's village with the guy that stutters. That's weird. Why would they put him as an Easter egg? It's the right village, it's the right character, and not have her with it.
No Witcher folk can say what they will.
I mean, he's definitely more easily recognizable than Vashka. But she has a catchphrase. It wouldn't have been hard to put her catchphrase in and identify, oh yeah, that's Veshka. They've got Gramps in the game, but Ciri never interacts with him. As if you don't know that character, Geralt doesn't know this character. So when Geralt meets him, he's no clue who it is. Gramps is yet another guy who kidnapped Ciri, which it was a reoccurring thing. People kidnapping Ciri. Every 5 minutes, Ciri was getting kidnapped by somebody. He was yet another one who kidnapped Ciri. He appears in both Witcher 1 and Witcher 3. He's got a cameo. He's got a quest in both. And when Geralt encounters him in Witcher 1, you get this whole story. And you get it from Veshka, because that's what just reminded me of it. He also is from this village. So you should encounter Gramps here as well. This isn't where you encounter him in Witcher 3. Where you encounter him in this village in Witcher 1. This village is in Witcher 1 as well. And when the quest ends, Geralt gives him a warning. You get this whole, he does this whole pity thing about how, well, I'm starving to death, and what else am I supposed to eat? Because he's a cannibal, he's eating people. And he does this whole, I'm starving to death, and so Geralt feels sorry for him and gives him this warning that, you know, don't eat people anymore. Stop doing it. I find out you're still eating people, I'm going to come back here and kill you. So you can meet him again. There is a place in Witcher 3 where you will meet him again if you happen to go there and see this guy. You can stop and talk with him, and he's like, oh yeah, we're doing good. But Geralt's looking around the village, and all the houses are covered in blood. There's blood spatter on all the front doors and all the walls. And it's like, what happened to this village? Where is everybody? Well, they all died. If you've never played Witcher 1, most people, when they get to that quest and they've never played Witcher 1, they're like, oh yeah, sweet old guy, and so they leave. And nothing comes of it. However, if you've played Witcher 1, you start looking around and it's like, ain't this that village from Witcher 1? Are you Gramps? Did you eat everybody in the village? See, if you have played Witcher 1, there's enough clues there to suspect that this is who this is, and you can start going around and looking, and it is who it is. You can find out. Oh my God! Here's all the villagers. He's been chopping them up. They're all dead. They're in his basement. His basement is full of all the rest of the villagers. He's been eating them. It's a continuation of the quest in Witcher 1, where it ended with you telling him, stop eating people or I'm going to come back and I'm going to find out. I'm going to kill you. You can go back in Witcher 3 and find out, yeah, he didn't stop. He's still eating people. He's a character from the novels. He's a character you're going to encounter in the novels as well. He's a reoccurring character who keeps showing up in the Witcher franchise. He shows up in Witcher 1 as an Easter egg to the novels, and then he shows up in Witcher 3 as an Easter egg to Witcher 1. If you've read the novels, when you're playing Witcher 1 and Geralt encounters this character, you're like, Geralt, run away! This is that guy that tried to kill Ciri! But Geralt doesn't know this character. Geralt never encountered this character in novels. It's a character that Ciri encountered in novels, so Geralt doesn't know him. So when Geralt meets him, he's no clue that Ciri had a history with this guy. He shows up as somebody that is a Easter egg from the novels for somebody that Ciri knew, and now Geralt gets to meet him. Also, Gramps is seriously bugged out in Witcher 1. If you encounter the glitch that breaks him, it could break your entire game. It's a game-breaking bug. You're supposed to do a quest with him where he acts like your tour guide and he takes you on this tour around the area and tells you, hey, here's this, here's that. So he shows you a way around the map. He's kind of a tutorial character. You meet him fairly early in the game. And he takes you around and shows you, yeah, here's where this is, here's where that is, here's where that is. He kind of teaches you the map.
As if it could ever be about anything else.
And you should be able to, after that happens, go back and talk to him again. And then you get this whole quest with him. However, over the course of him taking you around the map, talking to you and showing you where stuff is, there's a cave. And there's a dialogue option that Geralt has the option to ask him, let's go explore this cave. And he all of a sudden he's like, no, I don't want to go in there. And so you could just, okay, I'll continue following Gramps, or I'm going to go in the cave without you. I'll be back in a few minutes. Well, when you come back out of the cave, you go in the cave, and you come back out of the cave, Gramps ain't there anymore. And you should be able to go back to where you first found him, and he'll start taking you around again. However, you can't. You go back, and he just stands there, and he won't talk to you. And if that happens, you need to go back to your last save file and reload the game. That's the only, there is no bug fix for it. CD Projekt Red never released a bug fix for it. Because if you continue forward, you can't do Gramps' quest, which isn't going to affect anything in the main story, because it's an Easter egg quest just to be, hey, yeah, this is that guy from the novels. You can't get Hangman Venom Potion, because you have to do his quest to get Hangman Venom Potion, but that it isn't a game-breaking thing that's going to affect gameplay that much. However, chances are really high that by the time you start talking to Gramps, you've already started the Kulkstein segment of Vizima Confidential quest. If you have, bugging out Gramps bugs out Kulkstein, and you can't finish the Vizima Confidential quest. It is one of the worst bugs in Witcher franchise history. If you've ever played Witcher 1, you are familiar with the Vizima Confidential bug, because almost everybody who has played the game has encountered it. You reach a point in the game where the game stops. It just turns into a black screen with a load thing, and it loads and loads and loads and loads and loads and loads and loads, and nothing happens. And you cannot progress the game. You have completely broken the game. There is nothing you can do at that point but restart the game all the way back to the beginning. And it's caused by when Gramps stopped at the cave and said, hey, there's that cave, and you're like, oh, well, I want to go in. You can go in the cave, just don't do it during that quest. Just keep going. You'll avoid the Vizima Confidential bug, because that's what causes the Vizima Confidential bug. So you keep going with Gramps, continue your tutorial thing that he's doing. Then he does, yeah, I'm gonna go here. If you need me again, I'll be there. Then you can go back and go to the cave and explore the cave, and it won't trigger that bug. There's gotta be a way to fix it. I should look. I've done enough mods for Witcher 1. I should be able to figure out a bug fix for it. It's a game-breaking bug that affects the main story, and you can't play the game. It reaches a point where the game just stops, goes to a black screen, and there's no way past it. We were intending to go somewhere, weren't we? I forgot. We started wandering at random again, like we always do.
Yeah.
I don't know, did we wander at random in the correct direction, or are we wandering at random in the wrong direction? I'm thinking we actually went in the correct direction. No, we went the wrong direction. Definitely went the wrong direction. Okay, that's fine. Not Siri. You're supposed to be getting on your horse.
Can you hear me?
Where are my clothes? Come. Don't just stand there. I want a hug.
Come, you must go.
All right. We'll talk later.
Want to go opposite way of that tree, right? Where'd our horse go? There our horse
In
went.
that case,
Why'd you
let's
move?
go.
For some reason, if we try to jump on our horse and it accidentally hugs Siri while we're jumping on our horse, it moves the horse. No. We're in the right direction now, right? Yes. Okay. So we just keep going on this road. We had our wolves with us in a while, haven't we? When I first started using the travel companion mod, the multiple companion mod, MCM. It's the MCM mod. When I first started using that, we were still playing as Geralt. And that mod was originally made for Witcher 1, and then it was converted to be adaptable for Witcher 3. And we have in Witcher 1, when we're playing as Geralt, right now we're playing as Kalkstein, the current playthrough I'm doing. When we play Witcher 1 as Geralt, we have White Wolf as a travel companion. So when we started using MCM for Witcher 3, that was the first thing we had. We had Geralt and a couple of White Wolves traveling with us. So when we first started using travel companions, it was originally wolves. Then we started testing out other stuff. Avallac'h in the novels had monsters traveling with him, so Avallac'h in the game, we have monsters traveling with him. And Ciri. Because Avallac'h's just going to have a nervous breakdown if he can't see Ciri. I think he has some type of separation anxiety issues with Ciri being out of his sight. So, we just keep Ciri with him. Avallac'h was a lot of different things because he was really, really, really old. He doesn't know how old he is. He starts listing off stuff he remembers and the year. I remember this and it happened then. And before that, this happened. I remember this. He goes on a list of 2,000 years. He can remember back 2,000 years. He doesn't know how old he is beyond that. So he's at least 2,000 years old. But he lists off at the same time. He lists off all kinds of things. I did this, and I've done that. He's had a ton of careers. One of the things he's classified as in the novels is a druid. And he's portrayed more as a druid than he is as a mage. Also, he hated being called a mage. People called him a mage. People called him a sorcerer. He hated that. Anytime anybody used the term sorcerer, he got mad and corrected them and told that he changed it to scientist. He absolutely hated being called a sorcerer. But people also called him a druid. He had no issue with that at all. The game doesn't mention that.
We were discussing questions of the magic nature, nothing of great interest.
He lived with the druids too. The druids of Skellige that you see in the game, he lived with them in the novels. He lived with them in Tower of Swallows. That's why I said, you read the stuff about him in Tower of Swallows, and then you read the stuff about him later in Lake. And there is such a big difference, because in Tower of Swallows, he's living on Ciri's planet, Geralt's planet, with the druids. There's this big giant cave there. He lives in this cave. He's got all these monsters with him. It's so different from then when you see him again now in Lady of the Lake. Now he's living with the elves. And he's a court mage to the king. Completely different. It's like it's two different characters. You get two very dramatically different. Here's what he is, here's what he does, here's how he lives, here's where he lives, here's the people he lives with, here's how he interacts with them. And then in the next novel, something absolutely, completely different that contradicts everything we were just told in this novel. There's huge amounts of conflictions between what we're told about Avallac'h in Tower of Swallows and what we're told about Avallac'h in Lady of the Lake. But there's also Andrzej Sapkowski wrote Tower of Swallows, then he took a break from writing, and 14 years later, he wrote Lady of the Lake.
Who would have saved yours then?
So, clearly he forgot what he wrote in this novel. In the 14-year time that it took before he decided, oh, I'm going to write this novel. One of the biggest conflictions is in the first novel, we're told he's dead and he's a wraith. And then in the second one, that's completely ignored and it's treated as though he's alive and this is what's happening. But by the time you meet Avallac'h in the novels, because he shows up in Tower of Swallows, which is the 6th novel in the series, and Lady of the Lake, which is the 7th novel in the series. There's 8 novels in the series. So by the time you encounter him, you've already encountered Andrei Sapkowski's really, really, really bad ability to be consistent with his characters. I don't think there's a point where he read a chapter after he wrote it to remind himself what he wrote about a character before he wrote the next chapter. If you were writing a novel, if you're going to sit down and write a novel, most authors write the whole thing beginning to end, one sitting. The problem with the Witcher series is each chapter, it wasn't written as a novel. Each chapter was written as a short story for a magazine. And he started writing them in the 70s. As you see in a 40-year space of time, and in some cases, more than a year passed between chapter here and chapter there. So even though, here's chapter 5 next to chapter 6, and most authors will have written chapter 5 a few hours before they wrote chapter 6, Andrei Sapkowski wrote chapter 5 and then a year later wrote chapter 6. That's where the problem is. Why the inconsistencies are so bad. Because it's very obvious there's never a point where he read the previous chapter that he wrote a year ago to see if it lined up with the next chapter that he wrote a year later. So, here's Yennefer. She's a pixie. She's a type of fairy. She's only 4 feet tall. Hey, here's Yennefer. She's a grave hag. She disguises herself as a human to lure men. Hey, here's Yennefer. She's a quarter elf who is all messed up because, look, her mother sat on her right after she was born and crushed her face and her back, and she's this hunchback, and she's all horrible, and her father killed her mother and beat the hell out of her, and she was 83 years old when she finally escaped, and now she uses this magic surgery ointment stuff that makes her look like she's only 15 years old. Okay? Which backstory is the correct one? Who the hell knows? Clearly not Andrei Sapkowski. He didn't know which one he was writing at any given point. And characters like Tris Marigold. Today she has brown hair. Today she has blue eyes. Oh, wait. Over there she's got green eyes. Can't even remember what your characters look like from one page to the next. Oh, he needed an editor so bad. That's the problem with self-published stuff. They were originally self-published. The reprints are mass-produced now because the game came out and everybody knew the game, so then it got mass-produced, mainstream published, and now big house publishers. But it was originally self-published and had no editor, and boy did he need a consistency editor. So badly. It's no wonder a big house publisher never picked it up. He gets mad. You see these interviews with him? Oh, he is so mad at the game developers. And he does this whole, well, mine was a New York Times bestseller long before the game came out. No, he wasn't. That's easy to fact check. Yeah, his novels are a New York Times bestseller now. That occurred in 2013, after the release of the second game. That's when they republished and published with a big house as opposed to self-publishing. There's no point before the game coming out that the novels were popular. They were obscure, self-published fanzine fan fiction published in fanzine magazines. They weren't even original content. That's one of the things I've seen people get so blown away by it when they realize, wait, you mean Andrzej Sapkowski didn't create Geralt? No, he didn't. And then people look it up and they're like, oh my god, I thought Andrzej Sapkowski created Geralt. He didn't. Geralt, the White Wolf, comes from the novel titled The White Wolf. It was published in the 1960s. And then people find out about Ciri. And they're like, wait, he didn't create Ciri? Nope. Ciri comes from a novel titled The Fisher King and His Lady of the Lake. That one was written in 1130, some 800 years ago. Ciri and Avallac'h both come from that novel. He didn't create either of those characters. Ah, the other entrance to our house. Can't get in this one. This entrance isn't open because we haven't done the quest yet, but here's the front door. That cave we were in, where I was telling you, this is Avallac'h's house. Where we went in the back door, here's the front door. The whole front section we can't get into because it's blocked off by the quest. Once we do the quest, this will be open and we'll be able to go in and out of the entire cave for the rest of the game, but until we do that quest, we can't get in there yet. Yeah, we won't be doing that quest for a while. We're probably many, many months before we'll do that quest.
Read through many worlds, many times.
We're in no hurry to do the main story.
The thing that Avallac'h appeared out of nowhere.
Can you get up here? You can't get up here. That is Herbalist Hut add-on loot. So it's classifying Avallac'h's house as an herbalist, which, again, that is something he was. He was an herbalist as well. We're discovering which houses are classified by what tags, by what type of loot is respawned in them. That's an XML file I made, Herbalist Hut add-on. It should show up beside any Herbalist Hut. I designed it to show up at the Herbalist in White Orchard, but it should show up any building that the game classifies as an Herbalist Hut. It is going to show up beside. So it's classifying Avallac'h's house as an Herbalist Hut, or it wouldn't have shown up there. That means the game developers put the tag Herbalist Hut in Avallac'h's house. That was how I designed the loot, the XML loot file for that. Avallac'h. I designed it so it would always, any house that the game developers added the tag Herbalist Hut to, any boxes around that house would drop loot from that particular XML file. Where are you? Ah, there you are. He pretty consistently does that attack move. Throws a fireball at us, sets us on fire, and then drops down to pick us up and kills himself because Gwen explodes and blows him up. Yeah, the game developers use tags to categorize houses. So some houses are tagged Herbalist Hut, some houses are tagged Weaponsmiths, some houses are tagged Armorsmith. Some houses are tagged Fisherman Hut. Some houses are tagged Poor, some are tagged Rich, some are tagged Epic, which is like extremely wealthy, I guess, based on the loot that drops for those types of places. Some caves are tagged caves, others are tagged mines, others are tagged dungeons. Avallac'h's Velen hideout is tagged as a mine. But, so it should drop mine loot, but it just dropped Herbalist Hut loot, so it also has Herbalist Hut tag as well. Some of them can have more than one tags. I haven't gone into the individual building files to see how they were tagged. I found a place where it has this whole big thing. It says, if tagged this, this, or this, then that. If else tagged this, this, or this, then that. So I found a list of all the tags that they use for buildings, but then I wasn't sure which buildings have what tags. But I was able to make the XML files to drop loot so that houses with certain tags, the boxes around their front porches, will drop loot based on the type of tag that house is tagged with. Which means now an Herbalist Hut, you will find herbs in the boxes out front of the hut. And Weaponsmiths, you'll find like steel ingot and repair kits. Armorsmith, you'll find like hardened leather and cloth and repair kits. So.
To order the crones to keep their eyes open and ears pricked, in case Avallac'h were to seek shelter in his Velen hideout.
We're at the Velen hideout right now. We are standing on top of it. We're on the roof of it right now. The Velen hideout is under us. It's one of the biggest caves in the game. I think it's the second largest cave in the game. The Sunstone Cave is the largest cave in the game. I think this is the second largest cave in the game. The cave, you can tell how huge it is when you see it on the map. This is the front entrance here, and this is the back entrance here. This is where we went in before. And this is an alternate entrance, but then it's blocked off so you can't get all the way in. It covers this entire area. That is all the cave. The cave is under here. It's huge. It's just massive. But you guys,
Perhaps half a year.
what are you doing? Is there something flying over us? Siri's going around in circles. There is, I see a shadow. What? I can't see what it is. Oh, there you are, it's a forktail. You're too high up, we cannot reach you.
Geralt. So unfortunate. I'd hoped you wouldn't have to witness this.
These guys here are another Easter egg. This campsite over here. It's an Easter egg for Chapter 7 of Tower of Swallows.
Quick, hide!
When Geralt is talking to Avallac'h, he asks him about, because he's painting this huge cave painting. And he asks him about why he's doing it, and Avallac'h tells him about the grave robbers that are coming in, and they're, as you can see, they're taking all the elven relics out. And they're getting close to Loradaren's tomb. And he was talking about how he didn't want the grave robbers digging up Loradaren's tomb. So he was putting this massive cave painting up because humans are obsessed with their own history. According to Avallac'h, humans are obsessed with their own history. And when they find this cave painting, they'll stop digging. They won't destroy their own history. They don't care about destroying our history. We're elves, so they don't care.
This way.
But these are the grave robbers he mentioned right here. They put them in the game. That cave entrance that we were just at that goes into Loradaren's tomb. And you can see they're digging up all the graves. You can see all the holes and stuff where they're digging up the elf graves here. It's in the wrong place in the game, because it was in Skellige in the novels. Loradaren's tomb and the grave robbers and all that, it was in Skellige in the novels. It was at the Druid Grove. All those caves at the Druid Grove, which are in the game, is where Avallac'h lived, and where Loradaren's tomb was, and where the grave robbers were disrupting the elf graves. So I'm not sure why they moved it to Velen in the game, but it's in Velen in the game. It's the same place. It's all, it matches everything that was the description in the novels. They just, for some reason, put it in Velen in the game instead of having it in Skellige like it was in the novels. Cave of the Ancient Unseen Elder God.
That's it.
Which they also put a cave with that title in the game. Or put that one in Toussaint. Avallac'h was the ancient unseen elder god in the novels. Not a vampire like they have in the cave. Why did they do that? I don't know. This is an area where drowners should be attacking us, and no drowners are attacking us. I'm thinking we want to meditate. I'm in the process of making a mod that changes when and where and how monsters show up in the game. And right now we're testing it out with drowners. So let's camp out here. We want nighttime. That should do it. I don't know if I did it right. That's the thing. It's a type of code I haven't edited in the game before. It's part of the WENT files. It's not part of C++ code, so it's the WENT file code is unique to Witcher. The code used in the WENT files does not exist outside of the Witcher game. It's not like you can look at C++ and oh yeah, this is that. It's a nope. They created their own code for the game because they wanted to prove they had high IQs, I guess. I don't know. So there's nowhere you can go to learn how to read the WENT code because it doesn't exist outside of this game. It's a trial and error guess. What did the game developers mean when they typed this?
She must learn to control her abilities.
That's kind of not good game practice. That's where you run into a lot of glitches with, like, Skyrim does the same thing. Games where you're going to run into a lot of glitches and bugs, they're games that created their own unique code just for the game, and it's non-standard code.
Which does not mean it will be easy to execute.
If the game was fully C++, you could look at any C++ tutorial, videos, how-tos, books, and find the answer for, so this is what's wrong, we should fix it by doing this to it, then it'll work. Games that use C++ to build them, and that's all they use to build them, are pretty bug-free. Games where the game developers are like, well, I have a high IQ, I'm going to prove I have a high IQ because I'm going to create a brand new code. And this game is the only thing that can read it, nothing else can read it. It's my unique code, this is the game, this is, and, well. If you don't know what you're doing when you create your own unique code,
Yet it also gave us time to flee. Avallac'h opened a portal.
you're going to have a lot of bugs and glitches, and you're not going to be able to fix them because
Something went awry. Impaired by the curse,
You can't go to somebody else and say, how does this work? Because you created your own code. That's why this game is so hard to edit. You hear people complain about it all the time. They'll go into editing the game and they're like, what the hell is this? And they're like, I thought it was C++. Yeah, it's based on C++, but then it's C++ and game developers with a high IQ and decided to create their own code. There's no software programs or instruction manuals for the Witcher exclusive codes either. It's just trial and error trying to figure out what did the game developers do. In these weird mud flats again. And we should be seeing drowners around here. This is an area where they should spawn in normally. And we're not seeing any at all. Some stuff in the went files, once you figure it out, it's like, oh, this is easy. This one wasn't one of them. That's why I wanted to check it, because it's attempting to change the time patterns of when drowners show up. And if they used a 24-hour military clock in the game, that would be easy to figure out. Or if they used a 12-hour to 12-hour non-military clock in the game, that would be easy to figure out. Do they? No. No. They created their own time system. Did we actually kill the Archosaurs? We should use this type of victory more often, probably. This is the second time we've been able to kill Archosaurs since we started using this different Igni. It has a longer range on it. That's why it did that. The entire world uses a 24-hour system for time. Yes, I know this is a fictional planet, but why did you create a non-24-hour time system? They did. That's why I'm having a hard time figuring out how to edit the time in this game. It's not a 24-hour time system. As I said, they spent so much work on weird details. And then you see stuff like watermelon in a medieval market. Medieval European market. Mm-hmm. The Americas haven't been discovered yet. Why is there watermelon in 1200 Poland? Or tomatoes. Again, the Americas haven't been discovered yet. Or corn. Because again, the Americas haven't been discovered yet. Oh. That was yet another of the complaints I had about that Bible Ben's. Ben has a Bible that is a modern day translation version of, what is it called? It's the Good News Bible. You got long stagger, don't you? Is that long stagger? It is, but it's almost done before you're dying. He absolutely can't fight. He got hit by long stagger. There we go. Just have to wait until long stagger wears off before he can do anything.
Too much of a coward to race a woman.
But yeah, that Bible Ben's using, it puts words into modern day English, and in some cases it changes the meanings of things. And one of the things where it talks about, it talks about grains. Can't remember where it was now. It says corn. The European Mediterranean Asian world didn't know about corn. Corn is native to the Americas. The earliest they would have known about corn-like substances would have been when they discovered maize in the 1400s. That was John Smith. Corn, which is different from maize, it is a different type of plant. Corn wouldn't be found until the 1600s in South America. That would have been the first time it would have gone to Europe, and then spread to Asia and the Mediterranean from there. So to see a version of the Bible where Jesus is blah 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 blah, corn, blah 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 blah. Yeah. But watermelon and tomatoes are the same situation. Watermelon was discovered in the late 1600s. And is it Mississippi? one of the southern states. Might have been Georgia. One was Mississippi and one was Georgia, and I can never remember which one's which. The other item was tomatoes. Again. Before the 1600s, nobody in Europe knew about those things. That's why it's laughable when you see in America what Americans call Italian food. Look, I'm putting ragu tomato sauce all over my pasta. It's Italian! Boy, you want to tell Italian that. There ain't no tomato sauce in actual Italy Italian food.
Yes.
Oh. It's laughable what Americans call ethnic food. This is Italian food because we put tomatoes on it. This is Chinese food because we give fortune cookies out with it. Fortune cookies were invented in California. I think Mexican food's one of the worst ones. Americans are like, hey, Mexican food, Mexican food, Mexican food, Mexican food, Mexican food. And then you ask somebody who is an actual Mexican, what's Mexican food? Is this Mexican food? They'd be like, we don't have anything like that where we're from. There's a cooking show. Oh, what is it? I haven't seen it in years. I can't remember the name of it. It's and she pronounces it. She doesn't pronounce it Mexico. She pronounces it. How does she say it? It's Mexico. Is how she says it. It's quite different. She's from Mexico. She's a Mexican chef, and so she came to America. She moved to America with her family, and it was like in the late 80s, early 90s when this show was. It was a PBS show. It was a cooking show. It was one of the first early Mexican-focused cooking shows. There haven't been a lot of them. As she had moved to America, and she was a chef in Mexico, and then she was looking to work to tell. She had this whole history of how her show got started. She was gonna go and start working at a Mexican restaurant in America because she's like, well, I should know. I can cook Mexican food. I'm from Mexico. I know Mexican food, and she got to looking for jobs at Mexican restaurants, and she didn't recognize any of these foods. Burritos, tacos, things nachos that Americans were calling Mexican food. She's like, what are these things? I've never heard of these things. I've never seen these things. And they weren't actually Mexican foods. They're things that Americans think of as a Mexican food. And so she ended up starting a cooking show. Authentic Mexican food made by an actual Mexican chef. And it was quite different. The stuff she was cooking, it was quite different than what most Americans can think of when they think Mexican food. It was dramatically different. We want to just continue to walk this area, don't we? We're in an era where we should be bombarded by drowners.
Between this noble edifice and the butcher's yard?
And they're not attacking us. I'm trying to figure out why are they not attacking us. As I was wondering, do we have a mod effect in it? And we do have mods that change drowners. I just deactivated them and there's drowners now attacking. There's some right ahead of us. Okay. So one of those two mods, they both change drowners. One of those two mods is causing an error. Because they showed up as soon as I removed both those mods. That's what I wanted to find out. So now we're going to have to figure out which one of those mods it is and what is the error. There are only 2 lines of code changed, right?
Senseless brutality.
I think only 2 lines of code were changed in the drowners. So it should be really easy to fix it. There's a lot of loot there. What is that loot for? Obviously, whatever those wraiths that just attacked us here. The rest of the stuff that spawned in with them. The bodies are still falling down. What are your bodies? Those clues? Yep, those clues. That was eruption with quite a long range. Do you remember what the range is on eruption? I know I looked at the code to see how it worked. And if you kill a monster with Igni and eruption triggers, it explodes. And if there's any monsters within a certain radius of that one, they burst into flames and they explode. And if there's any monsters in radius of them, they explode. And it keeps going until there's no more monsters. And we've seen it go huge amounts of distance before. That. I can't remember what the radius was. I think it was like 36 feet. But as long as there's monsters continually, every time this monster explodes, as long as there's another monster in the radius of that monster, it keeps going down the line until it runs out of monsters. It's a Rinwright enchantment. That thing where we just exploded everything with Igni, that's not a mod, that's a Rinwright enchantment. It's called Eruption.
Try to reach the place where last we were together. Registers? Looks like it. And I see the grounders still
We haven't gotten them yet. I have to go over there. We were aiming at the drowners, but then stuff was attacking us, so we didn't get there. They're just still running around over there in the tall grass. Loot way over there? There's loot way over there. Just gonna have to go over there. You know, weird lighting happening over there. The moonlight filtered through the fog.
Of course.
Got some weird light happening. Oh, it's 'cause sunrise is happening, right? Yeah, that's what's causing it. Got a weird sunrise through the snow causing it. We got fog snow happening here. I see a drowner dancing over there. Their animations are funny when they're just standing around dancing on the edge of the water. They're not attacking anything. Also, why are there so many drowners? That's not lore friendly on any level at all. Extremely not.
No ordinary craftsmen will do. They need an edge. They need extraordinary house.
For one thing, it's treating drowners like they're monsters. And they're not. So, there's that to start with. A drowner is a zombie. Zombies are called drowners in the Witcher universe. The same way zombies are called walkers in the Walking Dead universe. So, for starters, there's that. What you see for drowners in the game They're more like creature from the Black Lagoon monsters? Sea monsters? The other thing, we're told they're really rare. And they're drowning victims. We're given a very specific story. Very specific events have to happen to cause a drowner to occur.
If Caranthia answers the call,
Drowners are
Margaret
always
Fair should
female.
appear in the bay shortly afterwards.
They're always women. They're rape victims who their rapist drowned them and threw them in the river to hide their body. They must be female. They must have been raped. Their rapist must have drowned them and thrown their body in the river. They rise back up as a drowner. And they're considered extremely rare. They're one of the rarest monsters there are. Because those conditions have to happen in order to cause that person, their dead body, to rise back up out of the river as a drowner. And yet in the game, drowners are a dime a dozen everywhere, and they're treated like they're a creature from the Black Lagoon type of monster. That they were called drowners for a specific reason. The word drowner, it meant a very specific type of drowning victim. It's one of those things where the game changed what drowners were, and I'm like, why did the game change what drowners are? Because drowners have a very, very, very detailed and very specific, here's what a drowner is, here's what causes a drowner to happen. If this didn't happen, then it's not a drowner. And they continue to rise up at night. They only come out at night. That's why I was trying to change them so they only come out at night. They only come out at night. And they stay in the area where they were drowned. They come out at night, hoping to find the rapist so they can kill him. And if you can find the rapist and kill the rapist, the drowner will go back under the water and they will stop attacking. They'll be appeased. So why are we fighting drowners? Why are drowners sea monsters? Why are we fighting drowners? Why are we not looking for the rapist to kill them? Why did they change what drowners were?
Avallac'h? He's not let me down today. Not once.
Are you attacking the king? The drowners in the game are more like the Voidionoi, a type of sea creature. But, well, why don't they just be Voidionoi? They're Voidionoi. They're obviously Voidionoi. I mean, these drowners are so clearly not drowners. They are so clearly Voidionoi. Yeah, see? Sea creature with all these fins like a fish. Does that look like a girl who was raped and then drowned? I mean, really? For all you know, it came up out of the water and attacked people. For all you know, it was sea creatures that had fins. Is that a dead Avallac'h hanging in the air? Which I assume our centipede killed, because there's nothing else but the centipede over here. Well, the rest of the travel companions who came with us. What is it? Is it a wyvern? It's a wyvern. Why are you hanging in the air like that?
We came very close to catching you once. It was then that Avallac'h.
Can we add it out of the sky? There we go. That was weird.
Siren, do you swear to stay on shore?
Also, did we just level up? See the thing changed up there. Yep, we just leveled up.